Baby girl, I'm in med school. I work full time. I have a degree. I have a whole-ass beautiful man by my side. I have a family that loves me. We all take care of each other. We love each other. My skin is clear. My makeup is flawless. I am living my best life. My hair is growing. I smell like coconut oil.
He gave you a compliment. He said it looks nice. He said this is a nice color. I'm guessing because he wasn't like, oh my god, goddess, you are the most beautiful person in the entire world and the most beautiful woman I've ever seen in my life. Is that, like, not good enough then? What is happening? I'd be like, alright, great, thanks. Like, would you not? Would you not just take the compliment?
Just not feeling it. I don't know if I'm going to be feeling it tomorrow. It's such a waste of opportunity, and I really think it speaks to the fact that she knows her content is bottom of the barrel and she doesn't care. She's fine. She would rather make drama of people and she would rather make arguments and, you know, put out inflammatory stuff, which is like, alright, I guess if you want to do it, but I feel like you have a lot more to offer.
Hi everyone, it's me again, and Squish Gang is present. And today we're going to talk about somebody that I used to actually watch quite a bit and was really fond of at a time, and a lot of the structures of my channel are actually inspired by. It's going to be a bit of a different video because we're talking about the Gorl verse again, and I was requested to make this video quite a bit, and I've felt somewhat apprehensive of until now for a couple of reasons. For one, I don't like to incite dramas in different communities, and also I am a personal believer of punching up normally. However, we are talking about somebody with a lot of similar content structures, a lot of overlapping audience to what I've seen, as well as somebody with similar view counts to mine. We're talking about, as you can see by the title, Young Dumb Honey Bun, YDHB, or Sara. Her name is Sara. First, links, sources, Amazon, Patreon, all that link down below, ways to support the channel, the whole nine. Patrons' names on screen. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. Lots of content coming out for the foreseeable future because I keep coming up with stuff. And I don't start my internship till next semester. So try to keep this as brief as humanly possible, but it won't be because I've met me before. Part one, we're just going to do a quick who is Young Dumb Honey Bun, why is she considered controversial. Then part two, we're going to react to one of her recent rebranded content videos. And part three, we're just going to talk about like kind of the breaking point and the shift that a lot of people have had recently. So let's get right into it. Part one, who is Young Dumb Honey Bun? Young Dumb Honey Bun, who recently changed her channel name to the abbreviation of the prior name, YDHB, started as what is known in the Gorlverse as a compilation channel. When I say the Gorlverse, for those of you who don't know, this is a group of channels that typically commentate on specifically Amberlynn Reid and a channel called Foodie Beauty, sometimes talk about the Slayton sisters and a couple of other figures. That is the group that Sara is in. There are the compilation channels, which refer to, there's some that are really, some of the bigger ones like Apathetic Facts. There's one called Barbecue Chicken. Pepperoni Pete's would be another one, I think. These are channels that will, what they'll do is they will cut down videos from Chantal or Amberlynn. Chantal is Foodie Beauty's name, and kind of make them into more concise videos. Or what they'll do is they'll kind of categorize clips into like a certain aspect. So let's say Amberlynn Reid contradicting herself for 8 minutes, or Chantal talking about Burger King for 8 minutes straight. Like, it's those kinds of videos. And then a lot of people who make commentary on them will utilize the videos from these compilation channels to insert clips, because people, especially like Chantal, when she was live streaming for hours and hours a day, put out quite a bit of content. Some of Sara's controversies actually started in this time, where allegedly she had purchased subscribers as well as did not credit content from other creators, some even saying as bold as uploading other people's videos. I'm not going to confirm or deny that. That was before my time interacting with the channel, and I'm not sure, but I just want to put forward everything that I found. If there's some of these more niche allegations, I found some of these on Reddit. How credible is that? I actually do believe in sourcing credible things when I talk about stuff, so I'm just saying that that has something that I've seen. I can't confirm or deny that. Eventually, Sara switched to making commentary content on the girls, and she stated due to the shift in the copyright system on YouTube and what you can actually claim what's considered transformative content. What's interesting with that is she has come for Amberlynn Reid in the past about copyright striking apathetic facts for non-transformative content while saying the compilations are. So then if you were so worried about it, was it because you had uploaded, that would kind of feed into the concept of that she might have potentially uploaded someone else's video because then they can just strike her. That's alleged. That's just my opinion. I just thought that was an interesting thing to incorporate into that. Upon switching to this content, Young Dumb Honey Bun blew up from reading Amberlynn Reid's old Wattpad poetry and writings, and that is actually how I found Sara. Sara was a psychology student in the UK and incorporated aspects of psychology in her videos. She continued to do so as she pursued a master's in London for psychology as well. Apparently, at one point, she had claimed about being in med school and has claimed that she's a practicing therapist. There's a lot of claims that seem to, some say are unsubstantiated. Sara has said that she's proven some of them. It is very unclear. I am not going to comment on the credibility of those claims necessarily because, one, I'm not Sara. Two, I don't care that much. Three, it's not necessarily relevant into the criticisms that I have specifically. And I just feel like I'm not personally educated on types of topics of psychology, for example, so I can't say, oh, a therapist would say this, a psychologist would say this person might say whatever, right? There's a lot of questioning on substantiation, and Sara was somebody who tended to boast about her education quite a bit, stating things like, I live my best life, I have a degree, in this famous rant referencing coconut oil or something that a lot of people bring up.
I am an educated woman. I am an educated immigrant woman who has came here with no language, who is now speaking 2 languages fluently, who has a career, who has ambitions and goals in life. Regardless of the coinage that I make on YouTube of your name, I have a successful life.
I too have a degree. It's right above my head. This way. It's right above my head. You can see it there. It's in my blurry depth of field because I don't want to dox myself. And then I also have a college How do I do this? I also have a college diploma in applied sciences as well on my wall. If y'all don't think those are real because my name's blurry, sure, go off. Like, I don't care that much. She used to actively source in her videos related to her teachings and then would kind of mix them with her opinions. However, the credibility of her claims are now questioned a lot more. I am also questioning them a little bit because of the nature of the way that she kind of... The way that you'll see in the part 2 that she sources like random stuff from Google. Some of the articles that she had were actually academic ones. Upon rewatching, they were just like open source academic ones, which does not falter the credibility, by the way, if it's open source or not.
Now, when you get to a point where countries upon countries upon countries upon countries are experiencing an epidemic of people dying because they're so incredibly obese, I think that is when we have to, you know, really push a healthy lifestyle. And now I understand, again, I want you to remember, I know that there's people who have health conditions. I know that there's people who are more susceptible to it. I know that there's people who simply say, do you know what, I'm fat and I love it and I don't care. That's fine. That's absolutely fine. Continuing on with that conversation, I have seen that a lot of fat activists, I think that's what they call themselves, or like fat positivity, members have basically said that they are reclaiming the word fat. And I think that's great. I'm all for people reclaiming words. There was also an article in, I think this was Vogue or like Teen Vogue, about basically people saying that they do not see it as an insult anymore. And it's like a huge prevalent thing about, that people just think it's a descriptive word.
I personally, if I am sourcing, when I do read from things, are academic articles almost always. If not, they're Oxford published books. Such as something like this. So this is a book that is technically like, for regular readers. It's sold on Amazon, but it's published through the Yale Press. So I tend to try to incorporate primarily the text like that if I'm citing something as definite. Let's say if I'm talking about structures of rhetoric, points of argumentation, studies, those kinds of things. When I'm talking about just like YouTubers and stuff that they're doing, obviously I'm not sourcing stuff from Yale because that's not necessary. It's just like your time and place, right? How much credibility you want to build based on those claims kind of all falls to your sourcing a lot of the time. As far as like how I feel about the specific claims that she did make, all I'm going to say is she had a tendency to conflate aspects of rhetoric, which is just solely argumentation and positioning, as like actual psychological aspects. So let's say somebody arguing rhetorically in a way that is very self-serving, she would lean into like a narcissistic tendency. That's not necessarily true. Characters for camera's sake are going to be different than your overall personality in a lot of cases, and to make that certainty is not necessarily justifiable. I actually commented on one of Sara's videos a long time ago where I said, like, oh, I'm a big fan of yours. Like, DM me if you want to talk about Rhetoric, because I was trying to say, like, you're kind of misconstruing a couple of things. But then she never even responded to the comment. So, I mean, yo, here we are now, I guess. This just feels like such a weird place because it's not very often that I make videos on people I used to like. I guess Jimmy Snow would be the last time I did that. I want to say, as far as like what I can think of right now. With that in mind, let's get into part 2, where we react to a video that Sara made on an alleged transgender teacher from Hamilton, Ontario, which I went to university in a town called Kitchener-Waterloo, which was like, I think an hour or two from there, maybe. It was quite close. In the same area of the province of Ontario. So let's get right into that. So we're going to react to one of the recent videos from Young Dumb Honey Bun. I've been watching a lot of the other content just kind of see what's going on, and I was used to, like, I would religiously watch all of her videos, and then lately it's just kind of become this like bizarre dribble. This one has sparked a lot of controversy, and I'd like to watch this one. I obviously avoided it prior to this. We're gonna watch this and then discuss kind of the points brought up in relation to the discussions that I had before this. And I just kind of thought it would be a little bit ironic to react to one of Sara's videos, given that she's a reaction channel herself.
Transgender teacher wearing huge breast prosthesis under a tight t-shirt in class has sparked controversy online. Kayla Lemieux, a teacher from Ontario, Canada, began her transition a year ago. However, some parents are confused by the teacher's huge breasts with nipples that are too clearly visible under clothes. In response, the school defended its employee and said it supports Ms. Lemieux's gender.
A few weeks ago, maybe a couple of months ago. And I've had people be like, this is so old, like all of this is old. It's new to me. It's new to me. I have had no idea that any of this was floating around in cyberspace, okay? Give me a break. I'm still interested in all of this.
Very interesting to pick up a story that was a right-wing media point, right? That was very, very forward, right? School in Canada, international news for the support of transgender teacher. So when you're looking at stories reporting this, okay, so this one's from someone called Outkick, which seems to be a right-wing media source, because you can tell by the way that it writes things like, while no one is arguing that Lemieux and other trans people should not be allowed to dress how they want and live as they want, it's absurd to allow someone with that preference to be teaching children. Administrators all over the United States, and clearly in Canada too, are too scared of being called offensive and facing accusations of being anti-trans. Instead of fulfilling the first part of their job description, educating and protecting children, they are more concerned about protecting the whims of a transgender teacher who's decided to dress up in an inappropriate manner. This really shouldn't be a difficult situation, but cowardice and bureaucratic incompetence are apparently impossible to overcome. Until the adults in the room start acting like it, absurd situations like this will continue. This is what people mean when they say that Sara is flogging right-wing talking points and conspiracy theory. It's all stuff that tends to lean right. National Post, another example. I'm trying to find something that's not super obviously skewed. There's nothing. All of it is stuff that's like blatantly right-wing Canadian media. The Toronto Sun is a right-wing newspaper. National Post is a right-wing paper. City News might be a little bit less. The thing is that, like, I'm trying to find actual, like, something a bit more center, but there's not. National Post, you're like, all of these places I've heard the National Post before, but all these places I've never heard of before. Like, I'm trying to find like something in the middle, right? And all of the sourcing is circulated on social media. Effectively fetish outfit. Multiple news stories. What's that? National Post is multiple. Yeah, okay, well. Great. Love that. Multiple and links to one. Right? So there's some discrepancies here in how this is reported. So that's something that, you know, it's pretty quick to be able to take into account, but alas, we'll continue.
this. And so, yes, a lot of the things that I'm covering are a little bit outdated, but you don't have to watch it. There's people that are like on top of this stuff like all the time. So I'm just, I'm just slowly sorting through a backlog of
people who are on top of this. Who's reported on this? Let's see. Fox News. Check Media. Fox News, CHCH. So this is all right-wing stuff. I guess the Young Turk. Well, no, that's 8 years ago. That's not the same thing. All the ones reporting on it are right-wing media. So, again, this is the defense thing is a bit strange.
Crazy things that I've seen around the internet, okay? So today I'm talking about this, you probably have seen it, news story, these TikTok videos in which the individual, who I believe is identifying as trans, is wearing these huge prosthetic breasts. And basically, we're going to be talking about what happened, who
the individual who I believe identifies as trans, not the trans teacher who identifies as a woman. Interesting phrasing. Kind of right-wing phrasing, because it's apparently is trans to kind of a lot to deny these types of identities.
this is, what the school said, how did this all come to be, and was it a hoax? And does it matter that it was a hoax, whether or not it was a hoax? Does that make any difference? Let's go. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, there's a Canadian high school teacher who has been recorded multiple times by the students teaching, I think this was woodwork and like tech, with these huge prosthetic breasts. And I mean, they're enormous. They're nothing like I have ever seen. And I watch RuPaul's Drag Race, so that's saying something. This was so incredibly controversial and disturbing because anyone with two brain cells that can rub together can see how incredibly inappropriate this is. More fuel was added to the fire after numerous articles actually reported that the high school that this was happening at.
Where's this from? No sourcing. Child predator behavior. This guy as a teacher. SJW movements. Fetish. This guy is a troll. Keep up transphobic comments, but once providing... Yeah, see, this is where you're starting to get. Also, I've removed plenty of transphobic comments in my videos. Yeah, starting to give off Blair White vibes, and it's a slippery slope. And one of the replies is missing. There are a lot of people, like, just denying the... like, calling it perverted, calling it child predator stuff. Saying that it's a man who's trolling, right? So you're getting these notions. This is the thing, right? It's like, it's the language use. And the thing is that, you know, people can try to nitpick maybe, or Sarah doesn't watch stuff about her, but, you know, saying things regarding the situations at hand with the different aspects of the video. However, Sarah nitpicks language use constantly. Sarah is always coming after someone's language use. Amberlynn's, Chantal's, all the people that she comments on. I have a degree. It's right there. Right? In language. There's a lot of key points of critical media literacy here that are missing. And she is touted around saying that she is this authority figure of knowledge and comprehension and all that kind of stuff, only to fall for the very things that you should be able to, especially as an academic, someone who's read research papers, has done research, has looked at these things allegedly. This is basic stuff to, like, pay attention to.
Numerous articles actually reported that the high school that this was happening at said that it was illegal to criticize the teacher because they were trans, and under the new Bill C-16, the Canadian Human Rights Act has explicitly prohibited discrimination based on gender identity and gender expression, which means that if this person identifies as a woman and they want to express their womanhood in this way, then you are not allowed to criticize it or discriminate against them and, for example, say, like, you're not allowed to express yourself in this.
People from outside of the country get this law wrong all of the time. Canada. Waterloo? It's like an hour from there, from where this happened. Like, it's Bill C-16 and the Charter of Rights and Freedoms is saying that it's the element of the gender expression to deny them to deny, let's say, this woman that their gender identity, like your comments are doing, that would be, let's say, a case for being able to fire somebody or to be able to, have formal punishment of some sort. It's not saying, like, that's why people like Steven Crowder, so this is the pipeline that people are talking about, will take bills like this and pull them to their extreme. Like, if you misgender somebody, you go to jail. That's not true. What they mean by bills like Bill C-16 is if a principal, let's say, is that person's identifying as a woman and then walks around and just constantly discriminates them and says, oh no, you're just a man and you're a predator and blah, 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 that like that's the case for disciplinary action. Or in the case of this teacher, the thing is that it's a dress code issue, if you're going to get into that. Like, the shirts are too thin, for example. That's something that can be talked about with the teacher. They're saying it's on the grounds of that it's because she's transgender. But again, right-wing people just misconstrue things, and she's falling right for that pipeline. And again, this is basic stuff that when you're an academic, you learn in like media literacy courses and research courses. And pretty, like I said, I'm just surprised how I haven't actually seen this one. Like I said, you can see that there wasn't a red line under it because I skipped this one on purpose. And I'm just kind of like,
way this is disturbing, or this is inappropriate. You're not allowed to do that anymore, or at least that's my understanding. You can feel free to correct me in the comments if you are Canadian, or if you have a better understanding of the bill. But as far as I'm concerned, if this is your gender expression, you are not allowed to be criticized on it, and therefore essentially this person was either expressing their womanhood or they were using a loophole to act out the sexual fantasies in front of children, and in a way, which is what I believe, include the general public, including children, in some kind of sick, twisted kink, fantasy, whatever it may be.
To imply that the bill is used for a sick sexual fantasy is wrong. In the same way that people will claim things like false essay allegations, and even though it's like 1%, this is the same circumstance of this idea of why would you even perpetuate that as a concept or as an idea? That's like Chantal saying Charlie Gold pulls the race card. You're trying to equate a bill created for people that are marginalized as a weaponization of predatory action. This is actually ridiculous.
Because there is no way you can convince me that this person genuinely identifies as a woman, respects womanhood, knows what it's about, embodies, a woman and everything that a woman is and can be, and again, just values it and treats as part of their identity. This is, at the very least, a mockery, and at the very best, a full-on offence. Some kind of criminal sexual offence equivalent to flashing.
Transgender teacher wearing huge breast prosthesis under a tight...
What does she have to say about cisgender women who get enormous breast augmentation surgeries? Like, is that a sick sexual fantasy? Like, it's your phrasing, it's your structuring. There's so much wrong with this.
T-shirt in class has sparked controversy online. Kayla Lemieux, a teacher from Ontario, Canada, began her transition a year ago. However, some parents...
I need to look at what your tango is. I have a feeling this might lean turf. 4 personality disorders your narcissistic guy probably has. I thought we were into protecting men, Sarah.
Any cishet man out there, know your worth, lady.
Yeah, fuck all the cishet men out there for giving you a compliment that wasn't up to your inexpressed standards. God, there's just everything wrong with the world, aren't there? Oh, we just hate them all. We hate our dads and our uncles and our boyfriends if you're in a cishet relationships. It's just disgusting.
So this lovely, dependable news source. Again, where are you? Oh my god. Okay, I see what people are talking about now.
Are confused by the teacher's huge breasts with nipples that are too clearly visible under clothes. In response, the school defended its employee and said it supports Ms. Lemiaux's gender expression.
Because honestly, if you just think about this for like...
Also, I'm sorry, English people moment, Lemieux. Lemieux. Or Lemieux in English. Lemieux. Lemieux. Not... What do they say?
It supports Ms. Lemiaux's gender.
Lemieux.
Because honestly, if you just think about this for like 4 seconds, what is the difference between this person's secondary sex characteristics, prosthetics, being unsure like that, and a man doing the same thing, right? With like male secondary sex characteristics, or even a male member unsure. If someone turned up to school, if
Male members are not secondary sex characteristics. That's the difference.
a man turned up to school with like an entire prosthetic penis, just unsure, like in super tight like leggings or whatever, do you think that would be tolerated? Do you think that would, if the roles were flipped, do you think that the school district would also stick up for them and say, well, this is how he expresses his gender, he expresses his masculinity in this way, and this is protected? Or do you think they would tell him that he's a groomer and he needs to be jailed? Because I feel like I know the answer to this. However, this is the internet, and I've seen people literally stick up.
First off, I just mentioned a dick is a primary sex characteristic. 2, why are you using groomer? Why is it? Think a little bit more critically here, right? Why do you keep using these terms that weird right-wing people use? Tertiarily, think about it for like 4 seconds. You didn't think about it for 4 seconds because you didn't even check if the site. I can't find anything on this from like actually reliable news sources that aren't like weird, what's called click-through internet media, which means like the more clicks generated, they get money by advertisers. Find something like actually find something from like even the we have a federally funded news source. Try to find something from that. Try to find something from something that's not like weird Republican leaning or right leaning stuff. Try to find something from like if you can't find it on both sides. I'm not saying you have to discount everything because it's right, but if you can't find it outside of that, that's when you need to think a little bit more critically.
For NAZIs and also maps. We all know what that means. I've seen people do that, so nothing would surprise me at this point. And as we often say on this channel, within any community, there's going to be individuals who take it that step further and then a step further and then a step further and a step further until inevitably they have skewed the entire point of the community and the goal of the community as a collective. And this has been seen across the body positivity movement, the fat acceptance movement, the LGBTQ community. I mean, we've talked about pedos trying.
I think the biggest thing is, like, you notice how I'm not arguing on the grounds of like, oh, the prosthetics are like totally fine and everything's totally fine. But I'm also not being a transphobe. There is a middle. I'm saying before you go on these like holier than thou rants, actually check if it's real.
To be an extension of the community already in our last video, and so I believe that this is almost the same thing. Like, this is an individual who isn't actually trans labeling themselves as trans so that they can like cheat the system.
How do you know that? How do you know that? Sources. How do you know they're not trans? What makes you say that?
And they can use the identity in a protective group and be like, oh yeah, I'm one of them, and then do heinous things. That's what I think. I don't think this is an actual trans person. However, I think to the average transphobe or homophobe, it doesn't really matter, because they'll say, well, this person's a trans person, and they say they are, and in this new world, we have to just believe people on the basis of whatever they say, and therefore, the entire movement is trash. Like, that's what someone will use. And again, just as they did with the pedophiles who now identify as, you know, an extension of the LGBTQ plus community, they say, well, we can't choose who we're attracted to, just like, you know, these people can't choose who they're attracted to. So we're the same. We're, you know, we have the same kind of basis. We're just, and there's...
She's doing this to hedge an argument of neutrality, of centrism, saying that, oh, just because this person who I have denied any trans identity might pretend to be trans because I feel like they are, that means people would discount the whole movement, as if platforming, only sourcing and utilizing far-right anti-trans terminology and weaponizations isn't functioning to that agenda as well.
There's good people among us or whatever else, and they will try and baby step their way into the community. And this is the same thing. There's going to be people who are trying to use this protective group or this status as a protective minority in order to exploit children and in order to exploit the system, in order to play out whatever kink they had for years in public and have the satisfaction that even when there's a huge uproar, no one's going to do anything because the school is going to stand behind them. And therefore, look at what kind of impact that's going to have on the community that just wants to be accepted and recognize that they exist. Like, people who just want to be like, hey, I, you know, was born in the wrong body and I would like to live my life as the person that I truly know I am, and I would just like to live in peace, and that's it. And then you have these people who are like trashing the entire movement because they're going to be like, oh yeah, I'm definitely one of those people too, but I express myself by wearing a huge tit in my face and no one can say anything. That's insanity. That's it. I don't know how this is going on. Now, aside from the fact that somewhere on the internet, you will 100% be called a bigot and a transphobe for even questioning this person's identity, for even questioning the minority.
I'm not calling you a bigot because you're questioning this person. I am calling you a bigot because of the how you question this person and how you haven't questioned where these statements have come from. That's the difference. Those are crucial differences. And that is what a lot of people ask for. And you're making the same generalizations that you're waiting for people to make against you in this way that is just so blatantly disregarding so many factors just out of laziness, maybe ego, maybe. I'm not sure, but
even asking questions about an already established, almost like an ideology, is already wrong. Like, you're not allowed to do that. You can't do that. And so there's a lot of people who don't have answers or who think a different way, but they're not allowed to say it. And they're scared to say it. And I'm not surprised. There's so much backlash nowadays. I mean, people are getting cancelled left and right for things they've said 10 years ago. And sometimes it's right and sometimes it really isn't.
You didn't ask any questions before making this. That's the problem. That's the problem that people are having with you. You don't critically engage with things. You're not critically engaging with anything here. You're just you're spitting shit on your opinion because of a couple of poorly constructed articles you pulled up on Google.
I want to discuss whether or not this was true and whether or not it matters, and talk about the fact that biological women who couldn't control the size of the breasts, for example, who didn't have that, luxury to just take them off and leave them at home, have been fired before for dressing inappropriately, for dressing too, sexy, for being too sexy because they can't control what the body looks like. So no matter what they wear, the boobs are bigger or the bum is bigger, so it's going to lay a certain way. And I mean, women have been facing that for centuries. People can literally, you can have one girl, one woman, one female individual who has, smaller breasts than another, and they can wear the same thing, and one of them is going to be inherently sexualized and the other one isn't. I can wear super tight tops and not put a bra on, and no one even bats an eyelid. I know my friend who's, for example, I don't know, an F size, she can't do that. She doesn't have the luxury because people will look at her and say, you're dressed inappropriately, but they'll look at me and be like, no, she's fine, just because of things that they can't control, right? Because of things that women can't control a lot of the time, unless you get like breast reduction surgery. But for what? Unless it's for like health reasons, are you supposed to get it because people think a certain way of you, because people can't control themselves, because people think that just you simply existing and wearing a top is too much and you have to hide it? It's insane to then have to look at a person like this who's under protective rights because that's the gender expression. It's clearly a mockery. It's clearly someone literally being like, I can do whatever I want and you can't do anything about it. And so for these women who have...
Those are right-wing articles again. New York Post, I don't know what that is. Again, some click-through website, it looks like. And that's right-wing, the same right-wing. Toronto Sun is a piece of that. Like, it's the same, like, conglomerate, is that the term I'm looking for? If you can't find it the other way.
Been fired, who have been suspended. To now look at this person and go, are you serious? I feel like it's just such a smack in the face. I honestly do. Now, I want to talk about, was this fake? Was this a hoax? And does it matter? So in another article, basically they say that, I think this was on 4chan or some other anonymous forum, apparently one of the students who's actually in this person's class said that this was just a prank, right? This was all just a prank. This was all a ruse. We got you. And this person's actually anti-woke. And they were basically showing you how ridiculous the entire thing is. 1, I don't believe that for a second. 2, if it is true, then this person literally just got caught and it sounds like they went, oh, that wasn't a fetish, that was a prank. Yes, that was a prank. That wasn't real. Well, you thought that was real? No, I was making a huge socio-political statement. I don't think that this was a prank. I think that this person wanted to do this and use the anti-wokeness, like, mindset, I don't know, to make it okay. That's what I think. I think that they wanted to do it, so they did it. Second of all, even if that was the goal, I mean, they achieved it. They showed a flaw in the system, right? Not everyone who just says, hey, this is what I want to do, should be doing it, because by going so viral, they gave a heads up and a green light to all the other weirdos out there who might want to exploit the system, pretend to be part of the trans community, use that label and use that identity to, in some way, exploit someone, or in some way exploit a group of people. Clearly, it has gone undetected. Clearly, people were like, yeah, good, like, a green light for you. You can go ahead and do it in our school district because we don't care. And also, it doesn't matter if it was a prank, in my personal opinion, because these children still had to go to school seeing a professor or lecturer or a teacher wearing...
None of this evaluates if it's actually true or not. I don't know if anybody's noticed that. Someone commenting on 4chan that it was just a prank isn't a source. Again, how many times do I have to say that?
Refused to go to school over it, still missed out on their education because they didn't want to be around that. Those children were also still put in danger because that plastic ass wig could have caught on fire or, I don't know, be caught in some kind of machinery and led to a terrible accident, because this is just basic health and safety. And so in my opinion, it doesn't matter if it was a prank. It doesn't matter if it was some kind of a statement. I think if they were
slippery slope fallacy.
Making a statement, 1, they failed because all they did was fuel this hate towards the trans community, 1, and 2, show other weirdos out there that may want to do this that it's okay and they will be protected, and they can go ahead and do that.
They fueled this hate towards the trans community through these narratives that tend to be perpetuated with them. And by the way, let me perpetuate them to 80,000 people while I'm at it.
Lay out toxic, kinky, public fetish fantasies, because they can just say like, oh yeah, this is how I identify, so you can't do anything about it. So I think it's terrible either way. I also think that it's terrible on the kids who had to either miss school or witness that. So to me personally, I don't care if it's a prank or not. I think it was absolutely ridiculous, and I think it's insane that it was allowed. But let me know what you think, I guess. Do you think that this impacts the community in a negative way? Do you think that, you know, this was kind of like a social commentary in a way?
I hated that. I hated that so much. So if we get into part 3, we're talking about the aspect of the breaking point regarding Sara, because recently she has been losing many subscribers. If we actually shrink myself down here, again, we're back to this page, we will look at Social Blade, right? We can see the Social Blade. Yep. And we can see that things are not going well, right? A lot of lost subscribers, a lot of red here. She hedges about 100 subscribers a day, approximately. And you can see that she hasn't actually gained any subscribers since around December of last year and has been on stable loss since then. And with October alone, losing 1,200 subscribers. To what I've noticed, this is when a lot of the content shift has happened, where you have this sort of strange shift to like these cultural videos. Like I said, I was really trying to give her the benefit of the doubt because I quite liked her. And the funny thing is like, I don't really remember any of these videos because I keep just playing them and then watching TikTok the whole time and then not noticing that they're going on. And you can see like I don't watch the other ones as much. And I think what's happened is she was trying to make up for the lost amount of views. So instead of putting out, you know, one source thoughtful video like she would have before, she's putting out 4, 5, 6 videos because she's not even cracking 10K views a video. 4,000 views makes you like $50. Like, it's really not, you know, maybe I'm not the most wise on that, but like, this is like, look, the Octavia video, in-depth look at the company and why she failed. There's videos on, the James Soroka stuff, for example. There's way more going on here. She used to actually like source things. And it's kind of just all devolved since then, you know? I think her prime was when she was like, right before she had her master's in London, I guess. But yeah, it's just kind of sad to look at, right? Because these new videos have themes of LGBTQIA concepts in them. They have talk about maps, talk about neopronouns, they talk about fat phobia and stuff. But if you look at the community tab, I'll shrink myself down again. Do you think all ages drag shows should be allowed to be attended, as if like they wouldn't like cater them differently when kids are watching them? Strange. That is another right-wing touting point. It's a lot of let's make a slippery slope and then get mad about things that haven't happened. Is not wanting to date a fat person fat phobic? Again, another one of those points, and just some dribble otherwise. It's just interesting because she stouts herself as someone, she touts around and says that she's someone who's not political, despite the fact that the last video only sourced right-wing media and thought it was fine. How there was like minimal referencing that's actually like legitimate. To say that you're not political, you just like don't like, you know, SJW culture or whatever, you don't like when people are offended all the time. That's all of these are right-wing touting points. It's one of those things where it's like, if you walk like a duck and you talk like a duck, it's probably a duck. And it's just really unfortunate because I really liked her. You know, a lot of the structures of this channel and the content that I make were inspired by the way that she would utilize her degree in the content. I personally would make a point to source only academic things whenever possible. The books that I recommend are all from like Yale Publishing, Harvard Publishing, University of Toronto Press, University of Chicago Press, etc. Like, I noticed too that a lot of the things would be conflated, right, between like rhetoric and psychology, which was super strange. And the videos have gone into these like right-wing touting points and this conspiratorial nature and these poor sourcing. And then the Amberlynn and Chantal videos just become these like useless, angry streams of consciousness, as I mentioned before, right? So it's just kind of sad to look at and to think about, right? Because I feel like Sara has been put into a point of being discredited so much. Some of it due to her own lies or her own, you know, twisting of the truth, if you will, and along with the nature of her being so willing to pick on other people in such an aggressive and nitpicky way, I would say that she's kind of just said, you know, fuck it, give me that damn bucket, and just like throws out content and just wants to be in a place where her opinions aren't questioned. And when your opinions aren't questioned, a lot of that stuff is right-wing stuff where you get people like Tim Pool to say like, oh, Donald Trump's going to win 50 states. And people are like, that's bars, bestie. I've talked about the issues with the internet culture on the left a ton of times. If you want to know that, that's the beginning of my Sneeko video. I understand the concept of being overchecked and how frustrating it is. However, the solution to being overchecked is not necessarily to push yourself into a right-wing conspiratorial-based video content rabbit hole, which, again, you can claim you're not political or whatever, but your poor relation to this pseudo-centrism that you're trying to depict and the way that it's demonstrably false that you can be apolitical but then also share and platform all of these opinions in this way, you've kind of put yourself in a position where you just don't care to be criticized properly anymore. So you just want to try to figure out an area where you're not criticized at all, which is not the way to approach that. And the issue too is a lot of the basis of her claims is normativity, which often is constructed by people of highest advantage. And Sara is a white, conventionally attractive woman with a white, conventionally attractive fiance that seems to be at least somewhat well off. And if not, she has a spending problem, but that's besides the point. Like, because I don't want to assume she's necessarily well off, but it looks like she is because she goes around touting like Chanel bags and jewelry and, you know, all this kind of stuff. And it's like, you know, extensions, body mods, all that kind of stuff. So it's like, you're an immigrant, that's fair. However, there is a concept called intersectionality, which for those of you who don't know what intersectionality is, it is when like face multiple forms of prejudices at once. Let's say if you are a fat black trans woman, you are facing fat phobia, transphobia, and racism all at the same time. In the case of Young Dumb Honey Bun, she is facing xenophobia because she's an immigrant. If she faces that, because she's also an immigrant to a country in like in the same continent that she's from, and I don't like the Polish. I'm not sure what the relationship is there, but I'm just saying it's like she's a white woman immigrating to another white country is what I'm trying to say here, right? So there's going to be differences between, let's say, somebody who's from Mexico immigrating to the United States, for example, even though they are right next to each other. She uses normativity as a means of justification, which normativity, like normative values, are typically substantiated by or created by, you know, a lot of times cis white men. And she went on a whole rant about, oh, how dare we hate cishet white men, the cishet white men thing. It doesn't matter if you're mad that people are offended or whatever. That doesn't mean they aren't the ones that have the power, have the money, have the property, have the generational wealth, have the power of society behind them, have fit into all of these models. Like, that doesn't change the fact if people are offended or not, that is just how it is. And to have the reason for something being it's because it's the way it always is isn't really a good justification. I feel like that would be the same. I feel like you'd be happy, for example, if like student loan forgiveness came to be, but then other people would be mad because it was always the way it was to have to pay it back. You see how there's lack of consistency in these types of claims. And it is typically a very conservative argument to have it, the substantiation be because it was how it is just this way, right? Or it's always been this way. Which is just so strange because I'm a psychology student, because a lot of psychological experiments, for example, that were in these normative models were extremely harmful, such as, you know, my favorite, the frontal lobotomy. There are so many things that go wrong when you're relaying it to it is how it is. She's very privileged and just doesn't want to acknowledge that and places herself above a position of marginalized people by being like, oh, people make fat phobia their entire personality. People are making this marginalization their entire personality. Sure, but I feel like you're the last person who should claim as something as your entire personality, because I could boil you down to three things: veganism, your schooling, and body modifications and designer bags like a vanity, veganism, and education. Like, there's boiling people down and generalizing to these things is harmful and devolves the movements in the way that you're trying to say that these leftist generalizations often are, which is, again, is quite strange. And it's just such a shame to see somebody who touted themselves as credible and try and worked so hard in this. I don't doubt that you worked hard in your schooling. I worked hard in mine. I know what the vibes are like, you know? And I don't want to just be another person that just laughs about something to do with coconut oil or laughs about, you know, the alleged photoshopping and Instagram photos or whatever. I don't care about that. What I care about is going from somebody who put pride into what they were doing and really pushes their videos on this idea that you're busy and you're successful and you're prideful or whatever, which is fine. But then to go against yourself in this hypocritical nature, not only that, but to then push forth narratives that I guess favor you on a societal manner because you are a conventionally attractive white woman with a conventionally attractive white man, and to keep these conservative values would favor you. But to then deem being apolitical as a means to get yourself out of any sort of criticism is just creating the same cycle of hear no evil, see no evil that you claim Amberlynn and Chantal perpetuate constantly. Like, you can make meaningful content on Amberlynn and Chantal. I've seen you do it the same way as, you know, not to toot my own horn, but I feel like I have, right? There's just so much to talk about. And to just turn it into angry word vomit dribble after you've built yourself and then just say that, oh, I don't care about the loss of subscribers, I don't care about the loss of followers, despite the fact that you have criticized Amberlynn time and time again for saying the same things or just creating the boring content. In the most recent video, as of me recording this, talking about Amberlynn doing like Halloween stuff or something, and literally talks about like, oh, you make all this bottom of the barrel content. Voiceover content with Amberlynn clips in it is bottom of the barrel content also.
It speaks to the fact that she knows her content is bottom of the barrel and she doesn't care. She's fine. She would rather make drama of people and she would rather make arguments and, you know, put out inflammatory stuff, which is like, all right, I guess if you want to do it, but I feel like you have a lot more to offer. Like, she could have been doing makeup. She could have been, you know, she could have even filmed herself do her own makeup for Halloween and, like, I don't know, do something with her hair or, like, I don't know. I just feel like there's potential here. I feel like there's opportunity, and I think it's a shame that she doesn't want to do anything with it. She's looking at it and she's like, no, I don't really care.
Like, this video, you don't realize has taken me like 6 tries to record because everything keeps going wrong. But if it worked the first time, it would have taken me like half an hour to do. As far as like the recording process and stuff, I'm going to edit this quite heavily just because I am the way I am. But if I was just doing like a voiceover video, I could get this done in a couple of hours. Like, you're creating bottom of the barrel content in the same way that she is. At least she's showing her face, you know, because you won't show your face in your Amberlynn and Chantal content anymore, maybe because of hireability. But then to tout conservative ideologies in this bizarre way with your face in them is a bold statement in and of itself. I don't think you're necessarily a horrible person. I keep saying you as if Sara would watch this, but Sara has claimed that she doesn't watch anything about herself, but we'll take that with a grain of salt, I suppose. You're not a horrible person. It's just you have quite a selfish indignation, I think, or something. There's something going on there, and I think it's an idea to me to separate yourself from this concept of needing to be right online and needing to be like this figurehead online of sourcing and education. Like, it's just because you have the education doesn't make you unable to be wrong and unable to mess up in these ways and to fall into these traps. And it's just, and I think your critical literacy should be addressed because you're going to hurt people in a way that, because it's also a timing thing. With Andrew Tate, with Sneeko, with the right-wing conspiracy stuff, with all of these movements coming forward, the incels, all that kind of stuff. Time is of the essence, and you are harming people more in a very critical time. This is someone who is a fan of you. I've literally commented on your videos. Like, I love your videos. I love your content. I love how you style things. And people are probably gonna make fun of me for liking the content. I think it's because, for me personally, I was separating myself from like these more kind of like, oh, your schooling is wrong, blah, blah, blah types of criticisms. I was just trying to watch the actual content at face value. And I'm like, oh, we can all be petty. I kind of took things as joking around and gossip and that kind of stuff because I don't really take the things online that seriously a lot of the time. To have shifted in such a way, like a Gamergate-y kind of way, it's just really disappointing. Anyways, we're going to conclude with that, I think. To conclude, I'm kind of sad that this happened. Maybe I should have just seen the red flags all along. I don't know how ill-informed I was to have not noticed, maybe. I'm not sure. She exists in a very privileged place, like I mentioned, and it's just sad that she doesn't really want to work with that. But links, sources, Amazon, Patreon, ways to support the channel, all linked down below, along with ways to suggest content. And thank y'all very much. Have a good day, and I'll see you when I see you. Bye.
One of my favorite subreddits is r/SpongeBob. And not because it has, like, great content or anything. It's because everyone on there, every single poster probably has a collective IQ of 50 at most. It is the most brain-dead subreddit I've ever seen in my life. So I want to show you a couple of my favorite posts from the last few days. This guy says, I always thought the mud at the bottom of the tree and Gary takes a bath was peanut butter. This dude says, cool. This poll gets posted almost every day and SpongeBob wins every single time. Just updated chapter 2 of my fic. The Krusty Crew go to prison. In season 2, episode 2, who said, Fred, the My Leg guy. Okay. We have Minecraft Patrick with 136 upvotes and 10 comments. Upvoted, you have a SpongeBob sticker. The fuck am I looking at? The Atlantis episode is apparently about Scientology. Fun fact. Patrick. Just a picture of him. Not a slideshow, not a video. Just a picture of Patrick. And I wanted to include this because I actually like this one. I think this is a really cute drawing.